Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bootcamp. We are on day 1. I hope you have watched the first video that one explains to you how the Bootcamp works. If you haven't, please pause this one and go back to your email and get that one again please. Or it will be in the membership microsite too. If you have, I'm now going to show you how to put together a really good checklist that not only reduces stress and anxiety when selling your practice, but also increases the selling price of your practice and get you a better price quickly in a shorter amount of time. And it may even completely eliminate the stress dentists and practice owners feel around this time. I mean, we all know selling a practice is a stressful process if it's not done in an organized manner. And I have made some pretty big promises here. So let's get started right away. I'm Dr. Padma, as many of you may already know. And today we are going to put together a checklist that actually increases the selling price of your practice. And it is based on practices where I've increased their selling price by over 20%. How does it do that? How does a checklist do so much? Well, in many instances, practices that get advertised can attract almost immediate attention. When that happens, if you do not have the items on the checklist we are about to cover taken care of, you get caught out and you are on your back foot. It's not a great first impression, considering the fact that we get 7 seconds to make the first impression on a buyer, on anyone actually. And also, according to studies, this was published by Inc. even 6 months later. First impressions are basically unchanged. Cornell University actually recently studied this and found that first impressions may be self-fulfilling too. So, something left unprepared or having the wrong checklist in our case and we make a mistake, right? Then the first impression lasts for a whole 6 months. Then it's also becomes self-fulfilling too. That is, even if they only believed a myth about your practice, the buyer will actually act consciously to reinforce the notion that yes, that first impression was right and that the purchase would be a bad idea. It's almost a selection bias. It may sound horrible, but we do this about a lot of times in everyday life. And as Cornell found out, it's no different when it comes to first impressions. And it is therefore no different when it comes to getting that first impression about your practice right. Accordingly, having everything, and I mean everything ready when the first buyer picks up the phone is potentially where everything is lost or won if you achieve the first impression right. Now you can just download this checklist and skip the rest of the video. But considering the importance of this matter, I would also watch the rest of this presentation while we are on the topic. There's plenty to selling a practice than just a checklist, although that is very important. Many big things and many small things people get wrong while you look at this checklist, which you can also download or maybe we'll email it to you. Let me cover a few other things for you that could not be included on the list. You'll need a good lawyer for the sale, and I'm going to show you shortly how to get a good one. You will also need a different kind of accountant, potentially to the one you have now. Again, I'll show you how to get an appropriate accountant in a few seconds. And also why and how these two folks add to your selling price when done properly. If your current lawyer does not have experience with practice sales, then he simply has no business trying to help yours. You don't really want to be his or her testing grounds where he or she experiments, right? Dental practices have certain clauses and particular parts of the contract law. It is an obscure space in the law where only those that have experience they have experience. And it's not a catch-22. Someone trusted them in the past and they probably stuffed up the first few ones and got enough experience that way at others' expense. And now, it is unlikely they'll make the same mistake with you, which means firstly, it's not easy to get hold of them and they're usually busy because they are rare birds, meaning it will take a while to get their first appointment. Also, contracts take notoriously longer to put together, which means, well, you've probably guessed it, you have to start this process as early as possible. Do something now, right after this video if you can. Tony Robbins once said, never leave the scene of a decision without even taking a small action. Here's yours. Start looking for that lawyer and the accountant too, right now. Besides, if by any chance you get them early, then you can leave parts of your contract empty, blank, like pricing, schedules, and so on. Don't worry, the proper lawyers will know how to do that in advance so you can be ready right away. And there's no point to work for 20 years, sacrifice your time, effort, give up time with your family, perhaps your children. Let's not forget your money, the sleepless nights, the nightmares with your staff, the personal and financial risk you took to sell your practice and give most of it to the ATO, right? Whilst I do not advise any tax shenanigans or aggressive tax evasive tactics, I'm all for effective and efficient taxation of the sale. And it has to be orchestrated very carefully by an accountant. Yes, I'm sure you can probably guess what I'm about to say next. That's right, an accountant that has done this before. That is, he has to have experimented on all the other practices before yours. Do not be his or her first dental practice, no matter how confident he sounds. I'll give you a very good example, and many other brokers state the same. Does your accountant know how to value the goodwill of your practice as opposed to price? There are very specific accounting standards on how to value the goodwill. Distinct methodologies that have to be used by an experienced accountant in sales of practices. The everyday accountant may only understand the theory or how it is applied in other types of businesses. But a dental practice is not just any business, it has its own intricacies. I understand it is really hard not to listen to your current accountant, even if he has never sold a practice before or participated in a successful sale before. You may have to go against all your gut instinct, the only work with one that has experience. Pricing. That's easier what most people think. It's about creating desire for that outcome. I will tell you more about this and profit shortly. Setting it lower than market and you miss out on potentially the easiest dollars you could have made in your entire life, right? Yes. Imagine how many hours of work on your feet it takes to generate $10,000 in profit. Now imagine losing $40,000 to $50,000 because in 5 minutes or less you put the price too low. Setting it high, you say, well, that has its own pitfalls. The practice can stay on the market for a while. I don't mean to be a sexist, but imagine this. Someone that has been single for a long time. Well, it makes people wonder why no one wants to have a relationship with that person. Get my drift? Same here. If you set your price too high, then it stays on the market too long. And remember how I mentioned about desire before? Now, if the practice stays on the market for a while, then people immediately assume that your practice is undesirable. And no one wants something that no one else wants. A good sale is a quick affair, but don't forget desire. In fact, if you forget everything I've said and only remember what I am going to say next, the video will have served its purpose very well. The rest was pretty important too, but this, what I'm about to tell you next, is definitely the most important bit. If you don't build desire for your practice, you will never get a good price. Makes sense, right? Imagine if you really wanted to go out on a date with this special person, or you have in the past, and it really mattered to you, you really wanted to be with this person, right? How would you dress? How would you act? More importantly, how much attention to detail would you give if it really mattered? Well, this matters, right? Big time. So we have an entire video on this and it will make a huge difference to you by watching this video. And that's coming up. If you want to see any of this magic happening in your practice right away, please don't hesitate to contact us. If you need help with this, please click the button below and you will find out for yourself where we are a fit or not. Talk soon.